Good morning. It is 8:07. It's Thursday. I want to welcome you to the program. Of course, if you'd like to send us a text, 208-542-1079. That's 208-542-1079. If it's a criticism or a complaint, you can email that to Julie at sandhillradio.com.
I'll answer you.
All right. No, would love to hear from you no matter what. But I do believe that U.S. Senator Jim Risch is joining us this morning, and I'm looking at the caller ID. It's not clear, but this is the time for Senator Risch to be calling in. Senator, is that you?
Well, I can't wait to talk to Neil and Julie on Thursday mornings. It just makes my day.
You say that to all the girls. No. Well, we're actually happy to have you on. It's been a few weeks since we've had a chance to talk with you.
But we've been busy.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, you have. Crazy in Washington. I guess give us a quick rundown of how things are, a status update.
well, one thing in America, we have a government that changes, and that's part of our strength. It's expensive. It isn't particularly efficient, but the power belongs to the people, not to a party, not to the elites, not to anyone else. And the result of that is it swings. It swings back and forth. And America changes. We are a changing country, have since the beginning, becoming more sophisticated for better, for worse in a lot of areas. And change is not good when it happens quickly. The slower change happens, the better off everyone is. And that's one of the things I think that is our strength of having governments that last 4 or 8 years and then starting over again. So and those of us that are on the one side that wins, we're always happy, and if you lose, then you're unhappy. But look, you got to govern. You've got to. This country is the greatest country in the world, regardless of our problems, and it's worth saving. It's worth working for, and that's how you got to approach it.
Let's start with a question about the Joe Biden administration. Of course, we're a little over a week in now, a week and a day, and President Biden has signed, I believe, now 37 executive actions. Those are not necessarily are all of those executive orders. Those are a little bit different. But what do you make of this? This is really unprecedented for a president to take this much executive action in the opening days of his first term.
Yeah, the volume of it is a little over the top. But the fact of the matter is, in the modern era, where we have this polarity between the two parties, the right and the left, I'm not surprised at the kinds of things he did. And for that matter, when we got in, when Trump took over, we did the same thing. Indeed, the president goes directly from the review, from taking the oath out there on the front steps of the Capitol, back through the rotunda, up the stairs, and into the president's room at the Senate. And you can go up and watch him sign his incoming staff has a whole pile of executive orders there that reverse the orders of the previous president on their important issues, and it's done right then and there. So not surprising. I guess that many of them is unprecedented. I believe. I'm not sure. I just know the cadence changes. It's a different push by the government when a new administration comes in. We're obviously free enterprisers, free market people, trying to stimulate business, create jobs, have people be able to accumulate wealth. They view it entirely differently. They come at the object of government is to take care of everyone from the time you're born to the time you die, and make sure nothing goes wrong in your life. They go down that road.
Yeah.
So it's a different view of what the purpose of government is. Is it to be a catalyst to allow you to succeed, or is it to be the actual engine that takes you by the hand to succeed? And it's almost subjective, but if you've been at
Yeah.
it long enough, you can recognize it as objective very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, Senator, obviously, we want to get to how that government is working into the impeachment. But first, give us an update following the violence at the Capitol. We're taking people's words for it. Is it tense out there still? Is it just business as usual?
It depends on who you are. I guess for me, it's business as usual. I mean, I was. Look, this is my 41st year in the Senate, 28 of them in the state, 13 in federal now. And I've seen about all there is to see, or at least you think you do every morning you get up and something like that happens. But it happened. It was an incident that is pretty much, I think it's depicted a little differently on the media than for those of us, or at least for me, that was inside. I'm listening to some of my Democrat friends in the House saying they were terrified and this sort of thing. I was never in that position where I was terrified or anything else. Obviously, the proceedings were interrupted, and we left the chambers, and then a couple of hours we came back and finished our business and went home. So that's kind of the way it was. Different ball game than the. I was here when some of the Black Lives Matter stuff went on, and those were gangs going down the street, setting fire, looting, hurting people. Different, entirely different. I mean, I never was in the path of that at all, or I would have been. I certainly would have been uncomfortable. But when this happened in the this most recent incident in the Capitol, you were able to watch it on TV and see what was happening, and it just it's depicted differently on TV than when you were actually there.
Senator, let's talk about this impeachment effort that has moved over to the House. Majority Leader Schumer, which those words are really hard to say, but Majority Leader Schumer.
Amen to that.
He vows to move forward with an impeachment trial. You haven't really indicated how you would vote in terms of innocence or not innocent. However, you did vote on Rand Paul's amendment that this trial is unconstitutional. And I'll ask you the same question that I asked Senator Crapo yesterday, in that if you vote that a trial is unconstitutional, the likelihood that you would vote guilty is pretty minimal, I would imagine. So I guess what is your view and perspective on this? I know. It may be an assumption here.
If it's unconstitutional, how can you possibly vote to convict? So
right.
I'm a juror. I'll keep an open mind, and then I will cast my vote. But look, the Constitution, they had to twist the Constitution to get to charge somebody with impeachment that isn't in office anymore. A sixth grader can tell you, what is impeachment for? It's to remove somebody from office. Okay, What if they're gone? Well, you can't do it if they're gone. It's that simple. And if you can, we had Jonathan Turlian, who's a constitutional scholar, the other day, and when he gave the question, I said he gave all the reasons why we shouldn't. That the Constitution doesn't allow impeachment of someone who it's a moot point. It's not whether it allows it or not. It just can't happen because it's like defying the law of gravity. It can't be done. And anyway, he gave all the arguments using the words of the Constitution, which I think are pretty plain, really.
Yeah.
And you don't need a constitutional scholar to tell you that this isn't. You can't remove somebody that's already removed. But in any event, I said, well, if you can do this, what is to stop future Congresses from impeaching a dead president? And he thought for a minute and said, well, yeah, I guess that's right. The argument is the same. And you say, well, that's a dumb question. Why would they ever impeach a dead president? Right now, you have this movement in America that's going on, and you can read this stuff online. This isn't, I'm not making this up. This is these are things that are out there now. Admittedly, it isn't a big movement yet, but the movement goes something like this. Look, this country is seated on a foundation of the United States Constitution. It was written by rich, white, Christian slave owners. We can't have a country like that. We need to abolish the document that is our foundation and rewrite it with a politically correct and diverse group of people. And so that's only part of the purge. I mean, if we're going to clean the skirts of this country, we've got to, well, as an example, they're taking Thomas Jefferson's name off of the high schools in Virginia because he was a slave owner. And that is part of the purge that you want to have. So my point is, if the politically correct police want to clean the skirts, they could easily start with George Washington and go on through the slave owners that were presidents of the country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a frightening thing, and I think we live in this entire cancel culture. And I know that Senator, you were one of President Trump's biggest advocates and defenders. Was there some concern when you watch what the media and the established Democrat regime, what they were trying to do and still trying to do to Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley? Were you worried that your association with President Trump could put you at risk to be targeted for the same kind of treatment?
Well, yeah, I already am. I mean, you're when you get a reputation that you are a friend of somebody that somebody else hates, they will hold you up to public hate, contempt, and ridicule, just like they do that person. So I just stay away from the media here. I don't. You don't see me on the national TV anymore. I've quit doing those things. I don't talk to them in the halls. You go down the halls. Well, you've been with me, Neil. I think when we walk down the halls, you'll go through that gaggle of, sometimes it'll be 200, but more likely it's about, a few dozen, and they shout questions at you and chase you down the hall and ask leading, how can you possibly, I mean, so I just don't talk to those people. I just ignore them, and but no, I'm not concerned about that. Look, I'm not. Since I knew the guy and worked with him, my view is entirely different than what the media presents on that. So again, I just ignore it, and look, we're going to have to move on. There's absolutely no question about this. Times change. They've changed now, and our job is to govern. I've got a job to do here to govern in the spirit that I hope people elected me, and that is to try to make life better for people that want to see a robust economy and jobs, and the government getting out of people's way so they can live their lives. And I think you got to keep that fight up. It goes on constantly, and you just got to have the mentality to keep that fight up.
We're talking with Senator Jim Risch. Let's move on to foreign relations, Senator. We've seen some increased activity in airspace over Taiwan by China. We've also got some worry going on with Middle East being a little more powerful now that Biden's in place with some of these executive orders that he's put in. It weakens our stance with the Middle East. What's your position right now with all the knowledge that you have about our foreign relations?
Well, I think probably the foreign governments understand better than most Americans do that the foreign policy of the country is not made up by one man, by one individual, even though the president is the person that's pictures up there and they quote, et cetera, et cetera. But foreign policy is developed by both Congress, by both the first and the second branch of government. The founding fathers didn't give it exclusively to one or the other, and the result of that is it is much more of a conglomerate representation of what the thought process is on foreign policy than our other issues, the divisive issues that we deal with on variety of social issues or financial issues. So they recognize that, and they will test the administration to see to see how far they can push him. I'm fully expecting Iran to push the envelope. They did it under Trump until he reined him up with taking out the guy who was doing it, General Soleimani. He was taken out on the battlefield in uniform, doing work against United States men and women in uniform. Greatly criticized, interestingly enough, by the Democrats. So it will be interesting if Iran takes their criticism of that action and the many other actions we've taken against Iran. It'll be interesting to see whether Iran tests him, and for that matter, you can expect China and Russia to test him to see how far he's willing to go to actually protect American interests.
Senator, I want to ask you, I guess we always like talking politics around here, and let's talk 2022. I think the House very much is poised to get a Republican majority in 2022. If things unfold, the way we'd like, and I think is very likely, what does the map look like for the Senate? Could Schumer's tenure as a majority leader be pretty limited as well? Do Republicans have a good chance in 2022?
I wouldn't say the Republicans have a good chance. I would say that there's a chance. I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty even playing field. This is a lot like football. Most people don't realize this, but in college football, the national championship is decided on the day that recruiting closes, not on the field on championship day. It's recruiting candidates, and that's just in the very early process. It's a multi-step process. You recruit people based on what you think their conglomerate assets are to get elected. And then they step onto the battlefield and you start executing. And sometimes the execution works, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's better than you think. Sometimes it's worse than you think. But look, a full 1/3 of the Senate will be up in 2022, and from a purely theoretical standpoint, I'm not sure that's applicable here, but from a purely theoretical standpoint, almost always a president who has both the House and the Senate loses seats in the midterm election. And if my math is correct, when you have 50 on each side and you lose one, you're probably going to the minority. So so that statistic gives you some optimism, but again, there's the reality of what's actually going on.
Yeah. Last question here, Senator, because I've felt a little bit of gratitude for Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, both of whom have said they don't want to get rid of the filibuster, which keeps the Senate somewhat in its traditional role. But what does that mean for D.C. statehood, which the Democrats want? What does it mean for packing the Supreme Court, which some Democrats want? Does keeping the filibuster kind of slow down those radical ambitions that we were hearing about leading up to the election?
Yeah, it actually does not slow them down. It ends them. They cannot do what they want to do without getting rid of the filibuster. So bless Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. This happened once before when they had the supermajority. They really wanted to pass what's called a card check. Most people doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's huge. It ends secret ballot elections and union elections, and instead they take a card. Everybody gets a card, and you check it. You're met in the parking lot by 6 guys that say, "Here, sign this card and check here." So the unions would never lose an election again. Second part of that law is if the two parties can't reach an agreement on an employment agreement, you don't strike, you don't do anything. They send in a federal, not mediator, but arbitrator who listens to both sides and then writes, believe it or not, the employment agreement. It becomes a federal agreement that a private business has got to live by. That law failed by 1 vote because of the filibuster, and it was a lady from Arkansas, a Democrat who voted the other way. She lost her seat in the next election, but bless her heart, I mean, she felt very strongly about it, and in the face of tremendous pressure from the Democrats, She voted she voted against on the filibuster.
Yeah.
They couldn't reach the 2/3 because of her vote. That's exactly what you got with these two. Be interesting to see how tough they can be on this, because they're under tremendous pressure. By the way, just the way the Republicans were, when Trump first took office, he was pressuring all of us
Sure.
to get rid of the filibuster, and we said, look, this is a bad deal. The filibuster has moderated both sides from doing things that were way out on the edge for years and years, for centuries. Why do you want to do this? And he was livid. He
Yeah.
really wanted to do that, and there were very few people in the Senate on our side that agreed with that.
So, where judicial appointments require only a majority now, how will the Republicans stop the packing of the court then?
Well, the packing of the court would require a law to change the number of judges on the Supreme Court. I mean,
okay.
their path was very simple. They said, we're going to run a statute, which you can do. It's not 9 is not constitutional. It says Supreme Court with a number to be determined by Congress. All you had to do was pass a bill that says we're going from 9 to 15, and they would have 6 liberal seats that they could fill. The problem is, to pass that law, it takes 60 votes under the filibuster rule.
Okay.
They got rid of the filibuster rule, it would just be 51.
Okay. Well, we can breathe a little easier now, I guess.
A little easier.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. And I mean, right now, those two are the spotlight's on them here, for them, for better and for worse. So we'll see how tough they are.
All right, our guest this morning, U.S. Senator Jim Risch. Senator, thank you for your time. We look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Okay, nice to talk to you guys, and we will talk again soon. And God bless America, and we'll carry on the good fight, regardless of who's in the White House.
And just say this: Epstein didn't kill himself. Just add that to the end. All right, Senator. Thank you. All right.
Talk to you guys.
All right, we'll be back. It's 8:28 on the all-new News Talk 107.9.